So we're going to talk about the card of the week. Okay. We talked about all of these cards pretty much in depth, but the one that I want to talk about is one of my favorites is the Ozolith. Mm-hmm. The Ozolith is such a funny card. I remember when this came out, this was in Ikoria. Okay. So I'll read it again. It is the Ozolith. It's a one mana can be found with Urza Saga.
Yep.
It is a 1 mana legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, exiles, dies, gets bounced to your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one too. Just bounce to your hand too. If it had counters on it, you put those counters on the Ozolith. Okay. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. Get this. Tyrite Sanctum. Indestructible counter.
Yeah.
If that creature leaves the battlefield, that indestructible counter gets put on the Ozolith.
Yes.
Ooh.
You know what I was just thinking about? So you were saying it's searchable with Urza Saga.
Yes.
Also, when the constructs die, those 2 counters that they get on them go to the Ozolith. Is that what it's called?
The Ozolith.
Ozolith. Yes. So the constructs, when they leave the field, they're just like, oh, those aren't
counters.
They're not?
They just get +1/+1 for each artifact. Yeah.
All right, that would have been broken.
Yeah, that would have been broken. Yeah,
so good.
That would have been cool though. Yeah, that'd have been really nice. Yeah, so the Ozolith is just it's a funny card that you can really play around with. Yeah. Right. And I think this deck really takes advantage. Really takes advantage. So I mean, you think about you have Greater Good on board. Okay, you have a sack outlet. Sack outlet for a Hydra that has 10 counters on it. Let's say I have Lifeblood Hydra that has 10 counters on it. I sack the Lifeblood Hydra. Sack the Lifeblood Hydra to Greater Good. Draw 10 cards, gain 10 life off of Lifeblood Hydra.
Move those counters.
Move the counters. Draw 10 cards off of Greater Good. Yep. And then discard 3 cards. I've drawn 20 cards, gained 10 life, and then discarded 3 cards. And then those 10 counters that were on Lifeblood Hydra are now on the Ozolith.
Yep. Being ready for the next monster.
This is all pre-combat, by the way.
Yeah.
Post-combat. Now, hang on. Think about this. If you have Vorinclex or any token or counter doubler, those 10 counters go from 10 from the Lifeblood Hydra to 20 on the Ozolith.
Yeah.
I am pretty sure that's how it worked, even though it says move the counters, because like if we look at doubling season, if an effect would put 1 or more counters on a permanent,
it does.
It does.
It does.
It does. It's just put. It does.
Wow.
So you turn those. I mean, let's think about this. Okay. Let's think about you've got Gargos on board. You play Rampant Rejuvenator, 3 and a green for 2 +1/+1 counters.
Yeah.
You've got Ozolith on board.
Yes.
Any counter doubler. Okay.
Yes.
So for 1 mana, you paid 1 green mana for the Rejuvenator for 4 counters.
Yeah.
2 off of the Rejuvenator, then 4 from the counter doubler.
Yes.
Vorinclex, Doubling Season, whatever, Branching Evolution. Okay. Sack it to Greater Good, or it dies, or you fight and it dies, for example. Yeah. So you have 4 counters moved from the Rejuvenator that you paid 1 mana for. 4 counters moved to the Ozolith. 4 counters to 8 counters. Pre-combat. Okay. Now you go to combat. You have Gargos on board. You have 8 counters. Those 8 counters go to 16 counters on Gargos.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That for 1 mana.
Yeah.
For 1 mana. Now, granted, you had to pay the mana for Gargos, the Ozolith,
all the cards,
any of the token doubler or counter doubler, whatever. But 1 mana to turn X equals 2
to 16.
And not a lot of steps either.
Yeah. And then you just attack for commander damage at that point.
Yep. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so Ozolith is one of my favorite cards. What I think makes this just such a great card is it's not specifically +1/+1 counters. It's any counter. Yeah. You can have a trample counter, reach counter. What else? Indestructible, lifelink.
Is there a hexproof counter?
Oh, that'd be so sick. That would be. I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
I don't know.
That'd be sick. I gotta look into that hexproof counter.
You know, I think people were also playing this in the, was it Affinity, where they were playing like modular cards and Modern. And so since they're like, since they would have other creatures that could then move their counters around, but sometimes there's no other creatures to move their counters around to.
Yeah.
So then it's just like, oh, puts it on this. All right, well, now when we're able to put it on a different creature, put it on that other creature. And now with the Urza Saga to be able to search for this, I don't know if people have tried it again.
I don't know.
Because it's been like since around Ikoria dropping that they had this, and Urza Saga wasn't a thing then.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's true. That's true. Yeah. So anyway, that is the card of the week, the Ozolith.